On July 24th, 2024, a fire erupted in Upper Bidwell Park, east of Chico, California, becoming the fourth largest fire in California's history, spreading through 4 counties, Butte, Tehama, Plumas, and Shasta. It burned almost 500,000 acres. All told, it was the largest fire of 2024 and the 4th largest in California history. Friends and grasshoppers, this is the Formless Podcast, number 117. With Tyler, the superhuman, me, Dustin, and a very special guest, a man I've known almost 30 years. Almost 30 years. My dear friend, Seth, a.k.a. Sethro, a.k.a. Sooth. What else? What other? Sloth.
Which I don't move like one, which is really weird.
No. My friend Seth is a fishing guide, an arborist, was a skater at one time. I don't think he skates anymore. Pro-am.
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Yeah. He's also, many would consider a savior of their home. Seth, how goes it, my friend?
It goes, and it's busy. A lot of volunteer efforts going on. It's funny because, when you go through trauma, you think that, tomorrow it'll just be over, and, PTSD is something, that happens in fires a lot to people.
Yeah.
And getting over it has almost been over a year now. And it's like I'm just now getting into that groove where we're actually appreciating the accomplishments that we made in Cohasset during the park fire, fastest moving fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at one point I read it was like 5,000 acres or 4,000 acres an hour.
That's spreading. Right. 4,000 to 5,000 acres an hour. Coming right at us like a racehorse, carrying a wall of death.
So let's back up because Cohasset's a small community, smaller than Bidwell.
That's right.
Or not Bidwell. I'm sorry, Paradise.
Paradise. Yeah.
Paradise was the last big one, and then we had this fire. Just if you could kind of give people a picture of what Cohasset is, what it looks like before the fire, where it's located roughly. Sure.
Thing. So basically, Cohasset is about 20 minutes out of Chico. So if you think about the mountainous communities, it's one of the shortest routes into the foothills outside of Chico.
Beautiful area.
Yeah, it really is. And you go through what we call transition zones or trophic zones. It's like the forest types change very quickly as you drive up the hill. In that 20-minute ride, you go from basically 600-foot elevation to 3,400-foot elevation. And it's very quick. So you get to see like the valley foothills, the grasslands, the forests change with, the oak woodlands into the pine conifer forests, and then strictly conifer forests, with the oaks in there too, with the black oaks. So it's very remote. When you get up there, it's like, it's kind of like you hear the banjos, you want to say, you see the town side.
Yeah. But it's home.
But yeah, it's been home for me for over 10 years. And for being a forest administrator in Northern California and being able to work in the small communities around Northern California for the past, 15 years, that one really had a different feeling than all the other ones. And I don't know why. Growing up in Cottonwood and then Viola in the summer times, very small, remote towns, 3,000 people, 30 people.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt like the people there brought a different value to the community. They had more passion in being more loving, caring for their neighbors like family. Not to mention, the other communities that I've been to, but I felt like they made me feel like I was at home, and for...
You got accepted.
Yeah, and for a guy that, has 5 generations in the forest in Northern California, since we have gravestones at Halcombe up in Round Mountain, 1812.
No kidding.
Yeah, so we were original homesteaders, and we my family founded the town of Wangler outside of Big Bend. And we were one of the original homesteaders. We had a general store there. We provide supplies.
What you're saying is you're a local.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And
Great way to put it.
yeah, and when you have the local bloodstream, you breathe it, you feel it in your veins. It's
part of your history.
Yeah. So it made like this like deep passion for wanting to stay during the fire and fight.
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh, everybody needs to evacuate, and it's like, wait, we're not just going to leave this unattended, Yeah. There's no way.
Well, in the town of Cohasset, it's remote, so it's got like all the strikes against it. It's remote. There's not a hospital there.
No.
There's not there's a fire department or volunteer. So, and to get to it is not easy. And then the population's low.
One way in, one way out.
Yeah. So it didn't have, it's not like the town of Chico that has hospitals and has places to evacuate to and things and a place where they could get resources too.
That's right.
And when you're making decisions, sometimes you have to make hard decisions. And I can only imagine whoever made the decision to be like, well, we're not sending resources here because we got to send them there.
Yes.
That probably somebody is probably still to this day not sleeping well. I can only imagine.
That's true. And those words were spoken to me personally from one of the initial fire department attacks. We were told that those resources had to go to Forest Ranch, and that we weren't going to be given any resources, and to hold on, you're in for a heck of a ride. And that gave me great passion to stay behind and fight with what limited tools we have. I was the head of the Cohasset Underground Bucket Brigade, which is basically like your hillbilly mom and pop portable water. If we can get there to the fire first, we'll try and put it out. And so we had these limited tools. We literally had a doomsday meeting about catastrophic fire on July 14th, which was 10 days before the fire. So I had this itinerary already in my head.
How fortunate.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah,
I'm looking at a picture of it on my phone because I remember pulling it up, and it's just understanding fire and the community to build a comfort level. And to build that comfort level was extremely hard to do because I witnessed a lot. I saw my friends' houses burning, my clients' houses burning, during the fire. I worked for, 80% of the people up there. And now, we went from 850 people to 120 people. So it's taken a huge toll off my business, being a sole proprietor arborist. And, that gave me more passion to stay too. This is where I work and breathe.
So let's back up a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. So the fire breaks out, and when the fire broke out for the car fire, the one I evacuated for, it was, I don't know, probably 6-7 miles away from me. And my wife goes, should we leave? Nah, we're fine. It's on the other side of the lake.
We all say that.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
So in your shoes, the fire breaks out. And when you live in a remote area with lots of trees, it gets your heart racing. I don't care who you are. I don't care how tough you are. You get a little bit okay, your ears perk up. You're definitely attentive.
Yes.
We're not falling asleep on this one.
That's right.
Just in case. So where were you? What was going on that first day?
Yeah, so I was there in Cohasset when the initial fire broke out. We have in Cohasset GMRS radio communications. We actually have a living tower on a private property in Cohasset.
Okay.
So we can get communication, if the phone lines went down,
Yeah.
cell phone towers.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, so this is big, I can't preach enough. In Butte County, we have multiple repeaters that we can bounce the waves off of.
You get word out.
We got the word out 15 minutes before watch duty did. Okay, so
Wow.
we knew what was up. There was something coming. We didn't know it was going to blow up that big. We thought they were just going to get a good initial attack on it. There was all these factors that came into play. A drone, which ended up being a guy in Chico with a good zoom, lens on his. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, so everybody's like, man, where's the air attacks? Well, there was a supposed drone. Well, it was in Chico. We didn't know that. The guy started the fire right under the grid power lines. Go figure. We can't dump stuff on there. We can't fly aircraft under those things.
No.
It supplies like half the Bay Area power.
Wait, so not to interrupt. So the fire broke out with it was started by a guy with a drone. Is that
no?
Okay.
So what happened was a good point, Tyler. The fire started. There was a guy that had recently got out of jail. Okay, he got a vehicle. He ended up drinking that day. The gates happened to be open on a red flag day, which is very unusual for Bidwell Park. They're usually closed to Upper Bidwell Park on red flag days to keep the fire danger down and to keep incidents like this from happening. Gate was open that day. Individual drives in and rallies this car, gets it stuck, okay, and instead of just leaving it on the side of the road, ends up driving it or pushing it down a small ravine. I've been there to the site.
Yeah.
And it caught fire. And, we had Chico Fire Department, which aren't wildland firefighters. They're typical firefighters.
Yeah.
First to respond. And CAL FIRE, we had a good response. We just couldn't get the initial attack laid out, to get that fire under control because the winds were so heavy.
And it was hot and dry.
Humidity low.
Yeah.
All the factors were playing right that day. It was in a canyon, right? So there was so many limiting factors that day. So when we knew that there was a fire there was already a heightened response from the locals, knowing that there's a potential this could reach Cohasset.
Wow.
Big Chico Creek Canyon. It's really once you get past, let's say, 8 Mile in Chico, in Upper Bidwell Park, it's very remote. It's very steep, and there are no access roads out there usually until you get further out.
It's kind of stuff you look at and go, wow, I ain't going down there.
Yeah. And so it was really hard to get an initial attack, and we knew that going into it. And so a lot of us that had tacit knowledge of the community in the area knew that it was going to be very difficult to get that thing under control.
So at that point, you're making phone calls and like, hey guys, you hear about this?
Yes.
Like, let's just be aware, get ready if we have to run.
Yeah, I think during that initial probably 2 hours in the beginning, it was at that point, get my wife, my ex-wife now, out of the house, get all the belongings out of there that were important, documents, things like that, the heck with the boat, leave that behind.
Like your level of importance changes.
Your
really
priorities.
Quick. Yeah,
That's right.
your priorities change really quick.
And having my family within an hour, to come and grab the kiddo, come and get the stuff. I mean, it was perfect. Everything played out just great for an evacuation. For the most part, we have a lot of elderly people up there that are retired.
Yeah,
they got out early.
It is a retirement community.
Yeah, they got out early. They were out of there, man. They got their trailers hooked up and they were done because congestion. You think about that in the campfire. Congestion was one of the biggest factors that played a role in the deaths. Yes, they couldn't go anywhere, and we had one way in, one way out, and a lot of people kept that in the back of their mind. Where Paradise has at least 4 or 5 artery roads out of there. I wouldn't say artery roads, but 4 or 5.
They have access.
Yes.
Where Cohasset's got the one.
And so 33,000 people trying to get out of 4 or 5 access roads. We all learned a lesson there. The campfire. It plugged up quick.
Yeah.
As soon as the first vehicle stalls, if there's not a dozer there or somebody there to pull it out of there with a 4-wheel drive, you're plugged.
At the creek.
Yeah. So there's got to be, you got to find another route around. We had one route, and if you keep driving, it ends up in the wilderness, and playing the odds out there is not a good idea.
Yeah.
But we had one of the members of the Cohasset Underground Bucket Brigade who drove 80 people out of there through the forest roads when the visibility was down to like 400 or 500 feet visibility. And the fire ended up, these two individuals, one in the back, one in the front, Justin and Josh, drove these people, this big pile of people, from way, way out in Campbellville, which is a remote part of Cohasset, out in Tehama County, beyond almost to the wilderness edge. Drove all these people out the forest roads, and had to get through gates and all this stuff to get back to Highway 32. When they did that, I was being asked by the Butte County Sheriff's Office, where are all these people? Okay, and the firefighters had no idea. We went up to the radio towers up there, no trace of all these people. There should be 40 cars, 80 people, just disappeared. And I knew that they were with the Autreys, and the Autrey family, to this day is one of the greatest, accomplishments in the Park Fire too, because they got so many people out. But he had known through tacit knowledge of living there and growing up there how to get these people out in emergency. So they drove out the SPI roads, ended up on Highway 32.
Not to interrupt you, SPI,
yes. Industries. We're literally right by their home base here. Sorry. So yeah, they drove them out, and literally half an hour later, that area burned over. So, I mean, it's making my hair stand up talking about it. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, if I had hair, it'd stand. Dude,
sorry,
okay,
my arm hair just.
So now was that what the movie was based off of, or was that another story? The Matthew McConaughey, Jamie Lee Curtis movie.
So no, that was about the bus driver in Paradise during the campfire that had to navigate to get those kids out of
that area. Yes. Okay. I was getting confused as far as
and you were asking before, how close of a prediction was that to what you went through? Probably about less than a quarter mile or 500 feet at times was that's what I saw. That's what was going on.
So those of you at home listening, what you went through in the fire was pretty close to what happened in that movie.
I mean, 3 houses down from where my house resides in Cohasset, a wall of flames 350 feet tall. 400 feet tall, staring at you. Like, I'm going to consume you.
Yeah, I've seen that, and it's scary. I didn't see a wall of flame. I saw an entire my house where it sits. Mm-hmm. I can walk out my front door and see South Fork Mountain,
right,
and that's where all the radio antennas are here in Shasta County. When the car fire broke out, we evacuated at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I walked outside my front door and looked at South Fork Mountain, and the entire mountain was on fire.
Right.
That was serious. That was like, we're in deep kimchi.
It just consumed 3/4 of Whiskey Town National Recreation Area.
So like I
ate it up.
I can vision what you're talking about when you say a wall of fire.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That's insane.
I've never, I've worked in forestry my whole life, and I've never
You've done the forest fire thing. You've fought fire.
That's right. So I've been there, marking the hazard trees, to keep the grid going, for residents, things like that.
You're not a stranger to this.
No, but I've never seen it in your backyard face to face like that. Yeah. It was pretty spooky.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you really had to... I believe in God, and you really had to
get right real quick.
Yeah, you had to get straight. Yeah. You had to know
this.
If I go down that road, am I going to come out?
This is a real possibility.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe I should probably not go down that road, or let somebody know that I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Here's where to find me.
Yeah. So. You say get right with God.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like Tyler's in the military.
Yeah.
And he's seen some serious stuff. And I'm sure that you've had similar experiences to I may not come back from this.
That's right.
I'm going to get I got to be okay with that.
Yes.
Because I can't think about the possibility that that's going to happen.
Yes.
At a certain point, see, I'm not, vindictive's not the right word, but I'm kind of like if I'm going to go out, all right.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to go out raging hard.
Fist. Does that mean go out with a bang?
Yeah, I'm going to go out raging hard. I'm going to
put up the fight.
Put up the fight.
Yeah. Die on your feet type thing.
Well, I mean, I want to. Right, I don't want to die cowering, right? Like I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the fire breaks out.
Yeah.
And it's going and it's raging, and you're in Cohasset for the entire time that it's raging. I mean, it was a week or how long was it?
It was probably just over a week.
Okay.
Yeah. I think by the 8th day, I was tired and exhausted, and
you don't sleep.
Thank God for Butte County Sheriff's Office, because they realized that and they were like, dude, you just need to take a break. Like, you're done. Like, and they were right. My body was spent. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I was running off of energy drinks, whatever food we had.
Whatever you could find.
I mean, our refrigerators, some of them we kept up, but people were like, go save my 150 pounds of beef in my freezer. It's all it's all I want, and it's like, you ran out there and it's like, well, shoot, 20% of it's already gone. What do? You distribute it to all the people that stayed, and then we found people that we didn't even know stayed. Older folks that didn't have vehicle access to get down the hill. And so we had to give them water and food and gasoline. We went through 111 gallons of gasoline in those probably 6-7 days. 111 gallons. And this was all, none of it was poached. Okay. Some of us are hunters here. We know what that means. I had to literally get a hold of, handfuls of landowners and ask them, hey, can we break into your garage and get your supplies? Because we're stuck.
Out.
We're stuck.
Yeah.
Once the fire burned to 360 around us, we were on our own. We knew that.
Completely surrounded.
You guys were completely surrounded by the fire.
100%.
For how long?
Probably 6 days straight.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It was surreal. Just being there and being like, wow. This is what it's like to be one of those people that's like, no, I'm not evacuating.
Yeah.
Well, this is the reality. The reality is you better have supplies.
You better have a backup
plan.
You better
have a doomsday plan.
Yeah.
Being on the bucket brigade, the number one thing we had in Cohasset was the community center and the school, which the school is, they haven't used it in a long time, but the amount of vegetation work near there, around there, some of it with the help of some of our fire safe councils, we've gotten some boost at the ranch nearby where we had available water. That water almost ran out by the third day. So
you're almost out of water in 3 days.
The ranch that had available water, the owner came to us at the 3.5 days in and was like, you guys need to get other water because we've got to have the rest of this water to supply this ranch. So we had to literally go out into the forest, find the springs, find the landowners that had portable water tanks on the property, and make sure that they were cool with us taking it. Some of them had pumps set up ready for us to just pull the water.
Wow.
Great things happen. I fought the fire up until the 4th day with 300 gallons. I must have filled it up 4 times one day. Okay. To the spring and back, to the pond and back, to put out fire. It made a 360 around us, but it snuck up behind us in the Rock Creek drainage, which is on more of the Corning, Vina side of Cohasset. Okay. And when the fire crossed Cohasset Road down below, which is where you'll see some of the footage that was caught on camera and stuff.
Yeah.
Which hopefully mine will be coming out soon.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to get to work on that.
Yeah, let's do that. So we had the fire sneak up on us about the 3rd day from the backside, and that made a complete 360 around us. I watched it that evening come over the ridge and burn the first tree, which was a great pine tree. It went up 400 feet tall flames. I'm like, we're screwed. This is bad. Because we had 2 fire NATO clouds at that point.
Yeah.
One building on the right, one building on the left, and the center line of Cohasset down the middle. When CAL FIRE told me this NATO cloud over here on the Forest Ranch side is going to throw 7-mile radius of fire, and then this one builds up and it's a 4-mile radius of fire, we were literally in the middle of a fireball.
Wow.
We knew the ash was coming. Whatever work we did around our properties. I kind of left my area. I didn't come back to my house for first 2 days. I had neighbors over there that stayed, and God bless them, and Kyle and Paul, and they had my place on lockdown, and they were feeding that generator because I had satellite. So I could, if people had to get a phone call out or text out or something,
they could go to your place.
They could go to my place, and they could use the satellite for phone and internet and be able to make a call out to tell people they were okay.
We're still alive.
Yeah.
Wasn't, speaking of those Fire NATO clouds, right? What'd you call them?
Yeah. Fire NATO.
Fire
clouds,
NATO.
Yeah.
Wasn't, I think I remember where I was last year when that fire broke out. And they started evacuating Shingletown, over here. And I was up in Shingletown at the time, literally, when they were like, oh, well, they're evacuating. The fire might be heading this way. I remember hearing something, a fire chief, some high level firefighter was saying that this fire is doing some stuff that we've not seen before, or just some weird,
that's true,
crazy stuff. And that was like that Fire NATO, wasn't it? I don't think I'm getting my fires mixed up.
No, you're totally correct. With the fast pace of that fire, that NATO cloud on the forest between Forest Ranch and Cohasset that was building and going towards Mill Creek at that time was 11 miles high. So it was like an atom bomb. When you looked at it, you're like, dang. Oh, crud.
So you could see that from a ways away.
Yeah.
11 miles.
And having that, like, I have pictures, from my backyard looking up at this thing, and it was like this, somebody just dropped a nuke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just crazy. And then the next day and that evening, having another one build on the other side, the same, almost the same height. That one was 7 miles high. This was 11 miles high. And they're like both sides of you, and you're like, yeah, this is doomsday, all right.
Yeah.
This
yeah.
is it. This is like c'est la vie.
Yeah.
And there were multiple times during the fire that I knew that, there was a good chance that we just weren't going to make it. So, we're going to lose it.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
How many people stayed behind? Do you have a number?
I would say, there was about 14 or 18 people that stayed behind. There were about 3 that went down the hill to evacuate and got sent back up because the wall of flames was over the road.
Dang.
Yeah. And at that point,
all adults.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody got the kids out.
At that point, we knew that we had no outlet down the hill, which was our only outlet out at that point.
So it's like you're going to fight this fire.
That's right. It's game on.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It was initiate the doomsday plan that we had 10 days before, get the community center generator running, someplace where people could resort to as an evacuation site. That was an evacuation staging area. We never had an evacuation site in Cohasset.
So explain that a little bit, because there's a lot of people that might listen to this that have never had haven't experienced a fire like that.
Sure.
So your staging area, that's where everyone meets up.
That's right.
And then
to
you
get
split.
Shuttled down the hill. That's right. So we're not staying there long term.
Yeah.
So we basically I had to make that an area where it was an evacuation site, because we had people in the community that were going to have to use that eventually.
Yeah.
Things were going south real quick,
And then not only that, but like you got injuries, you got people that need to eat, you got people that need just a minute to like breathe.
I mean, after the first wave of fire went through, we found people in the community. We had no idea they were there. It was
just, were they asleep or
I don't know what the factors were.
Yeah.
I mean, we had out of the area sheriffs, that came in to help evacuate and stuff like that, because they still had to do their normal gig too.
Yeah.
And so they weren't familiar with the area. A lot of people lived in a really off-grid situation. You might think you're knocking on the home door and it could just be the shed. They could be in the shed, living in the shed. You just don't know.
Yeah.
We didn't have much. They didn't have much time.
No, that's the one thing. That place, when it went up, it was like, I remember keeping an eye on it, because if you experience that, just like any other natural disaster, you kind of, your radar immediately picks up, and you kind of, you start watching it. Even though I was miles and miles away.
That's right.
You just keep an eye on it because
That's
know, like, that stuff's scary. And
Yeah.
that exploded at a speed that I don't think you could comprehend.
Yeah.
Unless you were there.
Yeah, we thought that some of the good stewardship work that was done, we had individuals that cleared views for their homes to see the canyon. We had some retardant that was laid down in those areas, but that hit the trees and the roofs. So what happened was the fire was coming up through the brush underneath and just sneaking right up on us. And so that was pretty much the initial attack was mostly on the the northwest side of Cohasset was where a lot of the initial fire attack that we did, me and a couple other individuals to keep it from consuming the whole town, because it was coming through areas that we thought were totally cleared and safe. But when you've got hot ash spreading out, coming down from, 11 miles out of the sky and landing wherever, it's like, you think those rain gutters are cleared, yeah, just that little patch, little size of your hand, is the one that, got
Lights
that
it
ember and lit it up, know. So it was really hard because in a crown fire, usually you're just trained to just avert and just get out of there, abort ship, like, Paradise and the campfire.
Yeah.
People just had to abort. There was no fighting the fire. It's a wall of flames that's over your head.
There's the water's not even going to get to it.
That's right.
And at that point,
no oxygen for your vehicles to run,
Yeah.
I mean, people don't realize that, but like, once the
you
vehicles
need
are derived
air.
of oxygen,
Yeah.
it's got to happen to make it run. So it was really hard to, judge how fast fire was going to get to a certain spot. You were trying to like always play out in your mind, okay, I see it on the ground. It's climbing to about 10 feet tall. How long is it going to get, take it to get from point A to point B? Well, a couple months prior to this fire, I had just trained for control burning with Trex, which is like a world known control burn, these guys go through and they do a lot of control burns all over the world. They're worldwide, TREX.
Okay.
And I had that training, and I had no idea that maybe that was put in my back pocket for a reason.
Isn't it weird how stuff like that works out?
Yeah. So when you communicate with firefighters and stuff, you're kind of on their term level. You can kind of give them a background, like, they're like, how close is it to the structure? Well, it's like 300 whatever feet. How long is it going to take to get there? Well, that was the key. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Knowing when to go right back there because there was so much other stuff to do up there. It was just hot spot to hot spot.
Yeah.
Night patrol, which is where I lost all my sleep. Probably looked like I was on drugs. I didn't get sleep for 3 days because we didn't have anybody up there. But when you were on night patrol, you had the upper hand. You could see all the hot spots.
Yeah.
It didn't really even matter how thick the smoke was. You could see the glows in the forest. You knew where they were at. And thank God, I'd bought a big fat chainsaw with a massive bar on it because most of the trees that were cooking up into the canopies were big trees.
Yeah.
We had a lot of big timber in Cohasset, and I did a lot of favors for CAL FIRE, cutting a lot of those big burly, on fire trees down for them. So it was a heck of an experience, and we all, worked side by side. What limited crews were up there, we tried to keep the best communication we could, but I also couldn't be doing their job on top of them because, I'm basically kind of like a civilian at that point.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but like they're privy to communications that you may not be to.
That's right.
And they're there to help.
That's right.
And if you're in the way, sometimes like if they got to take care of you, they can't take care of the other part of the job.
And our volunteer firefighters, a lot of them were delayed getting up there because they were going to get shipped to Forest Ranch where the big population was, And so to keep that tactic knowledge, they put up a little bit of fight to get them back up on the hill, and it took days, And so, I was alone with a couple, 2 or 3 people putting out fire on my side of where we were at in the Green Island for like 3 days straight.
So I've heard the Green Island multiple times. What is the Green Island?
So the Green Island, the Emerald Island, is about a 4-mile radius of what was saved in Cohasset.
Okay.
Okay, so we have like There was individuals that were down in Lower Cohasset, around Vilas Watson, that stayed, and they saved about 8 homes over there. Well, that helped, slow the spread into, the Maple Creek Ranch, which is where a lot of the Fire Safety Council did work, and control burning, which is where I trained for control burning. Go figure.
Okay.
And they had some sprinklers brought in, some extra people brought in, and they, those individuals over there off of Watson, John and James, and Zach, and the Maple Creek Ranch helped slow that spread into the area around the fire station, the community center, and the school. But we still had to spread out and get these other areas that were nobody was around. There was nobody around those areas. We had 1 or 2 people down below the store, and we had some engines that stayed down there and fought as much as they could. And they were there days straight putting out fire. The store didn't burn down, and those firefighters that were down there, I think it was Jarbo Gap, and those guys put up a heck of a fight, and those engines that stayed down there kept the store from burning. They had timber right behind them, a lot of brush, a lot of manzanita, hot burning stuff. People don't understand, but manzanita burns at like
it's
900
so
degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
so
it's very
hot. And
dense wood.
And even in a forest fire, even wood that doesn't burn hot.
Yes.
You can't understand the veracity of that fire, that temperature. I mean, it just Go ahead.
I was going to say, just like the manzanita combined with the pine and all that pitch, and I mean, pine burns hot and fast.
Yes, it does.
We had on all sides of us, we had continuous brush, and we had what you call ladder fuel. And ladder fuel is those suppressed trees below the big trees. And when that wind kicked up, it caught those brush on fire, caught the saplings on fire, caught the small timber on fire, which caught the big timber on fire, sent it right into the air above us.
Yeah.
It was like, shoot.
And fire literally can fly from tree to tree with the wind.
The ash spread, you're talking, 5,000 acres, continuously that was getting consumed, repetitively. And the ash ahead of it was setting stage for, what was going to burn next.
Yeah.
And so when the ash started to fly, miles ahead of you, that's when it got out of control. You can watch and kind of help snuff a brush fire, but when it gets up into the timber, it's totally uncontrollable.
You're in trouble.
Yeah. So we had to cut a lot of big timber. There was a lot of suppressed trees under the big ones that we had to cut down to keep the big ones from burning, and continuing that crown fire. Mm-hmm. We had to put out a lot of brush fires. We had to keep an eye on the people that were there in the community that didn't evacuate, some elderly,
that just didn't have means.
Didn't have a vehicle to get down the hill with everybody else, things like that. Wasn't operational. A lot of factors. But, we had to find water for the firefighters that did come up. During my efforts, it got really frustrating by about the 3.5 days in. I felt like, man, we're not getting the resources. And I ended up reaching out to Congress, and I'm not going to mention any names in Congress, but I mentioned out to somebody in Congress and asked them for federal support. And they ended up sending us OES engines from the Bay Area to help us out. Well, that made homework for me, because then we had to go out on night patrol, make maps, and
because these are guys that have never, until that day, they didn't even know that place existed.
Your street signs are gone. You had to go paint trees that said what the street name was, get them orientated.
Yeah.
Some would go out and get lost and come right back to you and be like,
I don't know where to go next.
You got to go over there and, point them out in the right direction. So collaboratively, with the state and federal support that we ended up getting like 4 or 5 days in, we ended up putting a good snuff on the fire.
Yeah. So sorry, I keep interrupting you, and I apologize, but I want to.
People do it all the time, Dustin.
I want to just clarify. So I don't want you to name names because you already said you weren't. But how did you? I think this is an important point here.
Yes.
How did you didn't just call Congress. Like you had to did you know somebody? How did you had a connection?
Yeah. Yeah, well,
because you're a fishing guy.
As a forest administrator in Northern California for the the Western Grid, I had 400 people in my back pocket at one point in my life, and it wasn't hard to narrow it down to about 10.
Yeah,
who I knew that in a really dire situation,
I
could probably rely on some of these people.
Yeah,
and so I went through that list and whittled it down. And kept asking, for more resources. And at that point, the fire's burning into Mill Creek, out in Paynes Creek, things got spread.
It's getting crazy.
It did. It blew up. And they were trying to keep it from Forest Ranch because what's up and over Forest Ranch? Well, Magalia. Magalia hasn't burned. See, so you kind of put the puzzle together. 800 people against, 4, 5, 6,000 people, but not only that, the potential for it to climb into areas unburned in the campfire or back into the campfire scar would just blow up again. Yeah. So basically, a quarter of the county would be on fire.
Yeah.
So I do get that, and that was really hard to soak in and understand that.
Especially when you're right in the middle of it.
That's right.
You're like, hey, dude, we're on fire, and you're not helping.
Yeah.
Because probably the second day in, I had great communication, and I got a call from, one of the higher firefighting support, and they basically were like, we're not going to be able to get you resources. You're in for a hell of a fight, and hold on, and good luck, and click. And that was when I knew I'm staying here for my community and for the Cohasset Underground Bucket Brigade, and we're gonna try and make a difference. Not knowing that there was gonna be walls of NATO clouds around us and fire all over the place. So we hunkered down and we made really smart decisions. We had to plug up some springs. Get more water. I remember going out to, one of the access roads into one of the springs above the microwave towers in Cohasset, and trees on fire, widowmakers, snags, grabbing somebody to spot me while I just, went through this wall of crud that was just burned up and still burning to get to the spring so that we could get the additional firefighters water, because water was essential at that point. Yeah. We were running out. At the ranch manager came and was like, you guys are going to have to find another source. We need this water here to save the ranch. You guys have to figure something out. We had a huge water tower at the community center. Little did I know you had to have 2 generators, one at the water tower to pump the pump, and then one at the community center. So I had to go out, and thank God for Maggie, who was also the radio operator at that time on the GMRS radios I was communicating with, somebody that could tell people we still have something left, people are still alive, things like that. Okay. I had communication with her, and she gave her own generator to power that tower with water in it at the community center. So by the 4th and a half day, 5th day, we had plenty of water for the firefighters. It was really cool because we had a fire engine hookup right there.
Oh, okay.
Big,
so at that point, it's like you got the big guns.
Yeah, and then we had the spring up above. We had some landowners that had put out water pumps to their portable water tanks that we could draft from, that left them there. Really cool. And we just put up a hell of a fight, and we accomplished great things. It was really good.
How awesome, man!
It was really good. Now that things have kind of settled down, I can kind of get a feel for the great accomplishments we've made. Where before it was just like, oh man, this sucked, this fire, can't believe it, blame the guy that started it, yada yada. You've got all this pent up, frustration inside of you. And
absolutely.
People saying you're on drugs, and because you're fighting this,
been staying up
for
for 4 days, dude.
You've been up for 4 days, and no sleep, and so you're like, now most of that's calmed down, and I can kind of appreciate, through the community outings and the events that we have with the people, this is what it looked like in town before it all blew up and it was a bomb. I mean, it was tough. It was like propane tanks exploding. It sounded like Vietnam for a while. I mean, it was scary. We didn't. You know, you hear a 250-gallon propane tank shooting out a ball of fire out of the regulator.
Yeah.
And they're copper. You're like, well, how long is this copper going to take to melt down to the point where it's just going to be straight up fuel? And how's
that tank gonna? Yeah.
So 6-gallon propane tanks, usually you'd hear the propane hiss, then you'd hear the roar of the propane coming out of the tank, and then you had about 3 to 5 minutes before either the tank would implode, explode, or shoot off like a bomb into the air or the area you were around. And we had a lot of that. Vehicles too, gasoline.
Oh, I got so many propane tanks at my house.
Yeah, put them out in the open field, man. Yeah, I'll tell everybody. Yeah, no, all your fuel, you just put it out in the most open area of wherever you're at, because they do cause serious explosions. And being around there, we had landowners that were down below us, and Christy was like, "Oh man, this tank exploded." And it shot 500 feet in the air and pinged off of somebody's roof like 500 feet away. So
that's insane.
A 6-gallon propane tank is shrapnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a killer.
For sure.
And the trees too. The trees were falling. Behind you when you were driving some of the roads. We had to help the county just close that off. When you send people back up to. Just close it off. There's trees on fire still. They're falling behind us. It's just crazy stuff. I had search and rescue up there too, and trying to orientate them where things have been cleared and there's nobody around, and it was really hard to communicate because you're in that heightened mode.
Yeah, it's
you're like, don't go down there, and they're like, but we have to. No. There's no residents down there. Like, don't go down there. It's a death trap.
Gosh.
So it was interesting working with all the resources that we had. But I would say, Sheriff Honey's people and Butte County Sheriff, Search and Rescue, the Animal Rescue. Those people, we all worked together as a team eventually, and we all got a hand in it because we didn't have anybody die. I saw pets die. I saw wildlife die. I saw houses die,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't, we didn't have any fatalities. So that was really
Which is a miracle in itself,
Yeah.
considering how much burned, how quickly it burned,
Mm-hmm.
the impact that fire made, like
huge magnitude.
the fact that like there wasn't hundreds of people that died is a miracle in itself.
Like you were talking about, like those people that were in an area and then they got moved, and it was like a half hour later fire came through. Like
that's right. I mean, it was
stuff like that.
Yeah, you saying it just makes my hair on my arm stand up, because it's like I remember that 2 hours of waiting for that response as to their whereabouts,
Yeah.
and not knowing if they were in the fireball or not, because that's where the fire tornado cloud was there.
Yeah.
They were right ahead of it. And then finally getting that confirmation was like a huge weight off my chest.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
So we got evacuated. My neighbors came over 3:00 in the morning, pounded on the door. Hey, you guys got to get the heck out of here. You got kids.
Yes.
Get. And I thought they were behind me. Like, I thought they were all loaded up, and they just like knocked on the door as like, hey, we're out. They stayed behind and fought the fire. And, we evacuate. I can't get a hold of them.
Yes.
I can't get a hold of them. It's been like 2-3 days. I'm calling their places of employment. Anybody that may know them. Hey, where are these guys at? Where's my neighbors? And I sent a text to them. And like a day and a half, 3 days later, text back.
Yes.
We're okay.
Yes.
That kind of stuff is just, you're waiting on pins and needles,
once
literally.
the Cellcom towers go down and like you lose that
power,
feeling of communication. My wife left me after the fire. My ex-wife left me after the fire. And there were a couple days where there was no communication. Bottom line.
Just don't know.
Yeah.
You can't get through.
That's tough. And
you
I get that.
Get through.
Yeah, no. And so we had that, the radio communication. Sometimes it was spotty, but we had it, the whole time. But when you're actively putting out fire and you can't beyond the lines communicating. It was like boom, boom, boom. I mean, we had this, itinerary from the Cohasset Underground Bucket Brigade, and it was like, it was in my head, the whole time. And it was just like, get this list done, get the community center up and running, find available water.
It's so important to have a plan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the mountainous communities, check into radio communication.
Yeah.
Something that if something goes down, how would you communicate? How would you talk to your neighbors?
Yeah. Not only that, knowing your neighbors.
Yes.
You don't have to be friends, but at least know them. Have a phone number. Have a way to be like, hey, something's going down.
The only way I was successful in this fire was having the community support, because most of them were like clients or friends, and being able to know that if I needed a resource and they had it, they would be willing to give it.
Yeah.
That trust level,
or know where to get it.
Yes, because a lot of people are like, man, the fire goes through, what's next? The looters come in, okay, and that was like, I mean, we can have another podcast, but the looting was like, people snuck in, people got past the barriers.
Man, what a bunch of losers!
Yeah,
what a bunch of losers!
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a fire going on and people are coming in to loot.
People have a heightened PTSD, and then you're topping it with, is my stuff going to be there if it is there when I'm done? And even my burned stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
You should have the right to go through that.
My coin collection,
Yeah.
My splitter, what made it, you think about those things. My firearms, did it make it, and if they're there, is somebody going to take them? Could you imagine that feeling, being down there, not knowing,
losing everything?
Yeah. So we had to be on point, and when everybody was out of there, we had people that were keeping a watchful eye, and we distributed a lot of cameras, game cameras, and kept an eye on things. We had, our doomsday plan for the fire, but we also had a backup plan for looters too. There were a lot of landowners that were like, here's where my game cameras are, go get them and put them out and just take them and distribute them, whatever.
Yeah.
You kind of wonder in these fires, these looters, and you kind of wonder like, well, how come they just don't accidentally get caught up in the fire and like, it's just like, those are the people you're like, yeah, we don't need them. Like,
that's right.
Because they're taking your stuff and you're worried, am I going to come back? My firearm's going to be there. Like,
that's right.
It's just what goes through their minds, but like, so you go through all this and it's been a year, right? And there had to have been some sort of come down, some sort of processing, something.
That's right.
What have you been doing, or do you want to talk about that, or just
Tyler, it would be
traumatic. That's traumatic, right? 7 days of fighting fire,
7
like
days
that.
Of hell, basically.
Yeah.
It was really like, I started listening to heavy metal, and I was like, this is the fire is the beast,
Yeah.
So knowing that, what can I get the upper hand on? I started, banging my head and rocking out while I was doing these tasks. It helped out a lot. I ended up, doing karaoke at the Madison Bear afterwards, to try and get some steam out.
Some stuff off.
A lot of people were like, "Oh man, you survived cancer in 2015 and 16. We see you smoking cigarettes. Well, why is that?" Let me tell you, this is very interesting. During the fire, when people ask you what necessities you need, and you're telling them that a pack of cigarettes and some Red Bulls is what you need, they don't understand that it's not for self-preservation, but knowing the wind direction in the fire. I didn't even smoke them for the first week in the fire. This is what's crazy. So I used the cigarettes as a tool, and when you sat in the fire, you could literally light it up, watch the wind direction, and I could radio in exactly what the wind direction was to keep
because
people
the cigarette smoke's blowing.
That's right. That's right. And so I would just watch most of them and just be like, okay, the wind's shifting from north to east. Everybody over there on the west side, get out of there. abort ship because the wind changed directions, we're screwed.
Fire's coming back your way.
That's right. It's coming back your direction.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a tool during the fire, not with one of those wind things you sit there and, hold up in the air, It was just like you could literally just put it in the soil and the ash on the ground and watch it and be like, whoa, wind's changing to the west, wind's changing to the north.
And that can happen in a split second.
And it's very important. The wind was so important in that fire because it was coming so fast. So there was that, the looting thing, just having that, that feeling, Tyler. Like
it's vulnerable.
Like
it's vulnerable.
Yeah,
you're at a
it
weak point in your life,
and
and this tragedy's going on, and then you have to worry about one more thing on top of it.
That's right. Yeah. So it was like, getting over that was like this slow process. Losing my marriage. Okay. I was part-time fishing guide, part-time arborist. Now having to move into full-time position, basically had to drop the fishing this year. That.
Yeah.
And having to put that on the sideline because I had to boost the arborist stuff because most of my clients got burned out. So they were gone. These were the people I worked for.
And that was the job.
That's right.
And when there's no trees to cut.
Mm-hmm. And your daughter comes up there and she doesn't want to see all this burned timber on the way up to this
home.
Beautiful drive.
Yeah.
So it took a while to get my kid comfortable to be coming back home. That was really tough. Just not working for weeks and taking that hit financially was big.
Yeah.
Not getting paid for any of the favors you did for the firefighters and for the community, and I get it. Sure. You just there's volunteer, to help people out, try and save something. You're not there to make a living doing it. Those are what the professionals are doing.
Yeah.
And basically, trying to combat those feelings, those feelings of I drive up the hill now and I see all my friends' homes and they're gone. Yeah. They're not in the community anymore. So it feels like a lonesome feeling, like you lost something.
Yeah, for sure.
And people are like, oh, you saved your home, you didn't lose anything. Well, there you go. I lost my marriage. I lost the time with my child I'll never get back.
Yeah. There's things that you lost that aren't seen on the surface.
That's right. Yeah. And a lot of people, even the ones that are rebuilding, still have that sense of loss in there, regardless of where they're at in the stages. Mm-hmm. We had people, that were coming down on me for cutting hazard trees, trees that could crush somebody, kill somebody. And they in return, the state came and gobbled those trees up. So they basically thieved this timber from the people to pay for the program because we didn't have, this is the crazy thing, we didn't have FEMA or state allocations after the fire. It wasn't declared. Nobody died. See?
Oh my God.
So no FEMA, no state. So all we had was some made up program to get out the rubble and get out these trees. They went and did the rubble first while the guys are working around a bunch of snags that can fall and hit them. Just the backwards spin in what we had in the campfire,
mm-hmm.
Make it a clear, safe area, and then send the guys in to come do the cleanup.
Yeah.
We had a reverse of that. We didn't have any of the foundation groups set in stone up there yet. It took time to get them up there. And now Suchi Foundation is the last one that's, carrying out after the 1 year of the fire, and they're done in December. So if you didn't get on the list,
you're in trouble.
You're done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that didn't seek the foundation's help. North Valley, all those ones.
I think that the thing that most people don't realize is how long you feel the effect
mm-hmm.
of that disaster afterwards.
For sure.
It not only did it just ravage the community, but now it's like, now you got to pick up all the pieces. Now you got to clean up. Now you got to clear the roads. Now you got to redo the power lines.
That's right.
I mean, just on and on and on and on.
And it took us like 9 months into it, maybe 10 months into it. And, when the state comes and removes your rubble, they remove all the soil. So you go back to build this home and you're like in an indentation in the earth. So you have to fill it in before you can rebuild even.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then you don't have your vegetation anymore. All your trees are gone. They took all the trees.
So yeah, you're like on a desert planet.
That's right. That's
basically.
right.
Do you so a lot of what I'm hearing too from you is there's Seth before the fire, and then the fire happened, now
that's right.
Seth after, and like you're very changed, right? After
very
that,
changed. Dustin, I mean, I think Dustin fished with me a lot, and you've been around me a lot. Dustin, throughout life.
I'd still say Seth is still Seth.
Yeah.
Like all the best parts about Seth are still there.
I'm smiling and laughing.
Yeah. Seth has always been like the happy-go-lucky guy. He's a friend to everyone.
I can tell,
and just he's a good guy to know, and a good friend. But I could tell. He went through some stuff. He saw some stuff. He called me. Gosh, it was last year. Yes. It was after the fire, everything. Yes. He calls me on the phone and he's like, "Brother, I went through some stuff. Holy cow." And he was telling me all this, and I helped him get some community stuff going, the Facebook groups and things like that, which I couldn't. First of all, I didn't know what I was doing, right? I'm setting up these Facebook groups, things that I, at the time,
and here you are doing 117 podcasts.
Yeah. But at the time, I didn't have like that experience. I didn't know. Yeah. And so it was really like a trial by fire, learning how to do all this stuff. But he's like, "I need your help. You're the one guy I know that knows how to do this stuff." And I'm like, "Really, brother? I don't know. I mean, I'll do whatever I can to help you, and I'll do the best I can, but like, I don't know what I'm doing." And so we're putting these Facebook groups together, and he's just documenting and sending pictures out, and like forest fire pictures of trees being cleared, setting up water tankers, just all of this stuff. And it was insane. But I'll say this, like, for not knowing what I was doing, and I had done stuff for the podcast and some other little things here and there, it was the fastest growing thing that I had ever done. And like overnight, it was just growing 10s and 20s at a time, and I couldn't keep up with it. And
wow,
yeah, it was really wild.
No, you were great, Dustin. People are going to get a laugh out of this, but during probably it was like the 4th day of the fire, people still didn't know, what the community looked like. Was everybody okay? Things like that. So I hadn't touched my Facebook page, my personal one, since 2016. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, folks, 2016. And so I started posting about the fire. Hey, we have something left.
The first one I remember I saw was, "Hey, going through hell. I'm alive."
Right.
Something to that effect. The town is still here, but we're barely hanging on.
Well, Grandma was on the Facebook page, so probably didn't mention the word hell.
Yeah. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah. No, it's okay. She gets it. She knows, because she was the one crying on the phone. This is the other thing you think about. When family members want you to leave the hill, and you stay behind. Answering the phone calls from Grandma, crying on the phone.
Seth,
you've got to get
home.
out. Yeah. Get off the hill. Calling the people to give them the precise information. Your house did not make it. You have nothing.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, I'm talking 30 people plus, in the community that I relayed that information to, because they were worried and wondering.
And you're giving them the devastating,
that most accurate information possible. We had another individual, Zach, up there too, and he went out and helped do the same thing. You guys it didn't make it.
It
didn't make it. So that was really troubling. So I would say that changed. I see a different light of humanity, not just through what I did, but through the people that have been affected.
Yeah.
Seeing the change in life. Seeing them try and come back, and how hard of a fight it is,
Absolutely. Yeah. But you got to keep going.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what's incredible to me about your story with this is, like, to preface this, in a really good movie, a really well-written movie, right? You have a thing that happens, the world the characters live in, right? Like an epic film, and something bad happens. but the hero is always right there, and the hero is exactly what is needed to fix that situation or remedy
the problem.
Yeah, to rectify the problem. And so like I'm listening to this and I'm like, you're an arborist that's caught in the middle of a fire that surrounds you in your town. Like you are exactly what they needed right then, right? A guy to go fall trees, right? Take care of trees, which is a big part of firefighting.
That's right. You know, the
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
man, I can't praise that training that I got enough.
Exactly.
But it had nothing really to do with the arborist side of it, but like having that knowledge of being around fire since like 06. I remember the Pigeon Fire, and that was like the first one I was on over there in Trinity County. And just knowing the process, like, this is how you gain ground, this is how you lose ground, and this is how you put up a fight. Like, we didn't have a dozer, you know? The dozers came in after the fire to do structure protection because they knew the fire was going to come back into the area and continue to consume.
That's the thing. It does. Like, you would think, you watch a fire go through, you think, like, there's nothing left here that can burn. And Mother Nature's like, you want to bet, buddy?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Being in a forest of skeletons, you know, it was just crazy. But also knowing and having a comforting feeling that if things got bad and went south, that you could always evacuate to where it's already been burned because it's not going to be as intense anymore, you know, but not falling into stump holes and not having half of the tree on fire fall on your face and, you know,
not only be crushed, but burned as well.
Not roly-polying down the steep incline, you know, things like that, or getting your truck stuck, God forbid, or the tire gets into hot coals and pops it, and then you got it, you know, fire burning up to you. Yeah, there's a lot of things to think about. So, like, processing things now, I've got a different light in life, knowing there's a process to everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, the forest is going to burn. Duh. But it took over 130 years for Cohasset to burn. And that's how long we were doomed. You know, so the fuel was in abundance. And continuous. And we had all the right factors for a catastrophic fire. And we knew that, you know, going to the Cohasset Underground Bucket Brigade, we had about 20 people before the fire. And, you know, they founded this grassroots organization, you know, in the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, it's just a bunch of people that lived in the hills that had portable water either on a trailer or in the back of their truck. And to this day, you know, this year we did snuff an equipment fire before the resources could get there. So we're still doing it. I've got some good things coming to the community. I reached out and proposed to one of the foundations, and I'm going to be really excited to announce that we have some other tools in our shed for the future.
Right on.
That were given to us through their foundation, and that's going to set us up for this continual of fire being an issue from here on out, because, you know, a lot of us know after the campfire, you know, Concal, that area gets burned every 4 or 5 years. You know, it's on this vicious cycle. We don't have the Jarbo Gap winds, you know, and working in that area during my career, I can tell you, I've never been blown off a mountain before, but I've definitely been pushed around by those winds in Jarbo Gap. So I gotta hand it to the people in Concal, man. 130 mile an hour winds sometimes. It is ripping over there. And I mean, you know, for people that don't know, you know, much about the campfire, you know, I had been to the origin site probably 20 times before it started. I knew some of the issues that lie out there, whether it be with the grid or the terrain or the vegetation. In that area in particular, those winds would book 80 miles an hour sometimes. You know, you'd get to work, open the door, and the door would literally almost crease and fold into the front of the hood of the truck. You know, and going to cancer treatment at the Feather River Hospital below where it ripped up into Paradise, knowing that terrain in there, how steep it was, the continuous vegetation, the timber, it was a setup for failure, you know. And if there's anything I can preach is, you know, the more fuel work you can do in the forest, that's stewardship and beneficial to slow the spread of fire, the better. the forest needs some of that back, whether it be chips from the nutrients, the biochar in the soil. Don't take it away. Not all of it needs to go away.
But we could be smart about it.
But we can be smart about it. Yeah. Continuous brush and ladder timber is not a good scenario.
If you're not a steward for Mother Nature, Mother Nature will clean up for herself.
That's
herself.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like Mama's coming home.
It cleaned
you're
house.
in trouble.
It cleaned house in our area. It cleaned house. I mean, some areas there's not one tree, brush, vegetation. It cooked the soil to the point where, no microbes, no
there are
seeds are sprouting.
left.
There's nothing but burned timber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really tough.
It's insane.
Yeah. And for the people that are, elderly trying to rebuild in those areas, it's hard for them to see a future, because it'll never be the same.
Yeah.
But the people are still the same,
Yeah.
They're just changed. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I changed for sure. I was a very heightened individual, on a heightened level during and after that fire. But I found that comfortability level, whether it was, through the heavy metal music or having an occasional, cigarette on the out there while I'm watching the winds change. Being in the still when there's nobody around and the quiet has always been comfort to me, not just like isolation, but just being, in the forest and in that calm.
Mm-hmm.
Set me up for a lot of this, I mean, I had a career in the woods and you knew that. And even though, pro-am skater for a little while, yeah, sure. But I was always working in the woods,
Always.
14 years old started, my parents put me up in the park service, they're like, you go to work for these people. It's like, well, I don't make any money. I'm a volunteer. Yeah, well,
you're going to learn.
Stay out of trouble, and this is how you're going to do it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
So a lot of my friends had fun, when I wasn't there. But I got college credits, started early, and was able to make a pretty good career out of it. But, life changed, and I wanted to see my daughter more, and I couldn't be a remote, forest administrator anymore and being shipped out to, Fort Bragg for, a week or, in the Bay Area for, 3 days or whatever. I was never home. So, it was good that I wasn't home.
For that.
Yeah. It was good that I was home.
For sure.
Because I had a lot of support behind me. It was just real silent for a while because no communication.
Yeah. Hey, you have some other things going on today. I know you had
Cohasset does have the Halloween carnival too.
Yeah. So, and I know you've got some stuff going on, Tyler.
Yeah.
So let's reconvene
Absolutely.
at another time. I want to finish the story.
Yeah. We can continue on as long as you want.
Because we went through the problem, so to speak, right? We faced the fire, gone through that. There's a whole nother story, a whole, rebuilding and
That's right.
recovery.
That's right.
So we gotta finish this up.
Well, thanks for the counseling appointment, Tyler. And
No sweat, man.
Hopefully it was therapeutic.
It's very therapeutic.
This has been awesome.
If I can smile and talk through it all and not start, bawling my eyes out, and maybe my hair sticks up a little bit here and there, but it's been a really good experience. Because the media, they always capture just what they want to hear.
Well, and
and that's the problem. They come out and do a little blurb, and then they edit it, and it's like it's not the whole thing.
And they're always after the next story.
That's right.
And so that was last week. Now we're on to this week.
That's right.
And then next week we're on to the next thing.
Yes.
And they're not there.
They
don't live there. That's not theirs.
Yes. Don't get me wrong, Action News and Enterprise Record. Thank
you
for all of your time and effort.
They have an important role, but it's always on to the next thing.
That's right.
The latest and greatest,
That's
or
right.
the next story. That's not a knock. Please don't take that the wrong way.
Yeah.
But you're still left holding the pieces.
That's right.
So is the rest of the community.
And it's tough because we had Jonathan was like my stand-up guy who fought the fire with me through the whole thing. And he left his family from a vacation, and he was back up on the hill 3 days later, and he was there with me for the rest of the show. But he talked to world news and things like that during the fire and whatnot. And because it's a really fast moving fire.
Yeah.
But I was actually denied contacting the media for a while. And I'm not going to say who denied me of that, but I was pushed into a corner where the media had no idea what we did. And, through Jonathan, through Dustin, through some of those guys that stayed and helped and stayed behind, we got some of the word out. But these podcasts are like a long duration, and they can get a lot more out than any of those media broadcasts, I've gotten out, which is really cool.
So next time when we do this, I want to talk about some of those resources and what people can do to plan ahead for their own communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that would be a really good bookend to this and a lesson.
For sure.
Because having a plan is important, but not having a plan could be devastating.
That's right. Because, without communication, probably number one, you're set up for failure.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you can all come together and be able to speak, that went far.
Right on.
We could talk about that.
For sure. Yeah. Let's do it. Seth, your social media, your contact information, if you want to give that out, now's the time, brother.
Yeah, I mean, you can look up Seth Mitchell on Facebook. As of right now, the fishing website's kind of just stale because, I had to take a break from it. I'm sure I'll be back.
But it's still up. Okay. Yeah. Seth is a world-class fisherman, and it's a damned shame that you can't be fishing right now. And my heart breaks for you because I know my yearbook is signed by Seth Mitchell, and it says, "Fish and skate for life."
For life, baby.
and it was true. Seth had two things in his truck at all times: a skateboard and a fishing rod.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't know how many times that we could talk about it later.
Yeah.
I brought the boat to school, and I don't know how the principals didn't figure it out. I was gonna leave school a little early for a reason.
We're going fishing. We're going fishing.
Yeah. The boat's hooked up, bud.
Later, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you on Monday.
That's right.
But
and if they weren't around, well, then somebody lets me know they're not around. I might jump that 10-stair, staircase by the pool. You better believe it.
Heck yeah.
I don't know how many boards I broke before I actually landed it,
but you did.
But I did.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I did.
So so Seth, it's Seth Mitchell's guide service.
Yeah. You just look up Seth Mitchell. I'm not open to the public, but most of the local people that listen in to you, especially Dustin and Tyler, I let them into the Facebook page. There's nothing really to hide, but opening up to the public that's a lot. Too.
That was a lot. No, but like if somebody wants to hear more of your story, talk to you.
There is a lot of media. The Enterprise Record and Action News have done on me, whether it's being the rebuild or the fire in particular. But if you look up my name, you can find some of that.
There's also the Rebuilding Cohasset Facebook page.
Yeah, and we kind of keep that to things in good motion.
Yeah.
Not
good news, good things happening.
Good news. Not just like, I want to sell you this. Yeah, we don't do that.
No. It's for updates about what's going on around
That's
the
right.
town.
And if you want to look up Cohasset Community page, we're on there a lot, and people are always talking about what's going on up there. So the Cohasset Community Association.
That's a great spot to reach out to you then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Tyler, anything else you want to add before we cut it?
I want to hear, like you were saying, hear the backside, the rebuilding and all that stuff.
For sure.
Because there's more to come.
There's more to come.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, friends.
Thank you, Formless.
Yeah, no problem. We're gonna call it good here. If you have any questions or comments, you want to reach out, you can reach out to us on Seth's behalf. We can get a hold of him that way as well. We have a Facebook page called the Formless Pod. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. I don't think I'm missing anything else. All at the Formless Pod. We have an email address called theformlesspod@gmail.com.
Wow.
And I think that's it. Friends, have a good one.
Take care.